All right, well, here we are, folks. It's the third Wednesday of the month. It's 8 p.m. Central Time, and you know that means it's time to welcome back Jake from Unshuffled.io. Every month, we take a look at a different mixed game, and Jake uses this fantastic program, Unshuffled, to demonstrate the game, to go through sort of the mechanics of how it's played. And, this is 2022. It's the year that RecPoker gets more into into mixed games. It gets our members more into mixed games because it's the future of poker. It's a lot of fun. You can always tell the table at the casino that's having the most fun is usually the mixed game table. It's not about hoodies and sunglasses and headphones there. They know how to enjoy the game of poker. So we're encouraging a lot of our members to take a step outside their comfort zone and to leave No Limit Hold'em behind just for an hour and join Jake and John and me here tonight. And tonight we are talking about 7-card stud 8 or better. Jake, did I say that right?
I think you did.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Jake. You've been a great friend of RecPoker here, helping us enjoy mixed games throughout the last few months. And we're going to talk a little bit about the game itself, how it's played, some strategies, how it differs from other games, and then Jake will take us through a little demonstration of the mechanics of the game using Unshuffled. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, so stud 8 or better. Now 7-card stud, I'm familiar with that. So 7-card stud, that's a very popular variant. Usually you get 2 cards down, 4 up, 1 down. Sometimes you can play 7 stud where it's all down. I can't wait to find out what 8 or better means and how this game differs from some of the other 7-card stud varieties. All right, Jake, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, 8 or better is exactly what you would expect it to be. And you guys can all hear me okay, right?
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool. And we did a 8 or better game last review, and it's the same thing. It's a 2-pot hand. So there's 2 bets or 2 pots in every hand, and our goal is to try and win both pots with the high hand, making the best poker hand with 5 cards, and using any of the 7 that are in your hand, and the low hand using 5 cards in your hand, and they must be 8 or better with an 8 qualifier. So the best hand in this game for the low is ace 2, 3, 4, 5. Just goes to show again, just like last time, that the aces are incredibly valuable in this game, just like they were in those other games. One thing that I think is really unique about 7-card stud 8 or better is that, unlike a lot of the games that we play, you can see a lot of the makeup of every player's hand. And unlike community card games, the cards are yours. You don't share cards. So depending on how late in the game you are, or how many opponents you have, you could already be in the money based off of whether or not you have the low hand, what's showing for the other player. And maybe they don't have it. Maybe they don't qualify for a low because they don't have any low cards showing, but you do. So I think that's what makes this game really interesting, and it really changes the way you approach raising, how aggressive you are, not aggressive you are. It's cool.
And so every hand has a high. Does every hand definitively have a low as well? Like, or maybe not? Maybe no one qualifies for it, and then the whole pot would go to the high hand. How does that work?
Yep, that's exactly right. Again, in order to have the low, you have to have 5 cards lower than 8 with no pairs. So you can't have 2 threes and then 3 other low cards with a value of 8 or lower. And it's kind of confusing when you say 8 or better, because when I first heard that, I thought 8 or better meant like better cards than an 8.
Yes.
In standard poker, you'd expect higher cards, but that's not the case in 7-card stud 8 or better, or any 8 or better game.
And when we talked about an 8 or better game last time, it was one thing that was interesting to me was the hand ranking. It started at the top and worked its way down. So like the best possible hand. Now, I'm going to butcher this already, I think. John and Jake saved me here, but it was like having 2, 3, 4, 5 wasn't as important as having 7, 6, 5, 4 or something like that. It was like, no, maybe I'm just screwing this up completely. That's
Well,
that's very possible. Yeah, John.
you always do rank the hands from starting with your highest card. So if you have let's say a 7-6 for your highest 2 cards, then someone with their highest 2 cards of 7-5 would beat that.
Even
now,
if it was 7-5, 4-3-2, and you had 7-6, 4-3 ace, even though your lowest card's lower.
A 7-5, 4-3-2 would beat a 7-6, 3-2 ace.
Okay, that's what I was having trouble with. Thank you. If we're playing this game live, I am definitely screwing that up multiple times a night for sure. That's gonna be some fun, I think. Okay. And you said pairs don't count, obviously, because that you can't use them in that way. And the aces can play high or low, so you're not handcuffed to that. And the suits don't matter. What about a low flush? Would that still count as a low hand?
So it still counts for a low hand, and it's actually a really good. That's a great hand to have because you can scoop the pot. You might win the high and the low.
Interesting. So if you've got like 2, 3, 4, 5, all in spades, it counts as a 5 high flush for the high, but it also qualifies as a low hand.
Yep.
Cool. All right.
Matter of fact, one of the best possible hands in this is the steel wheel, ace through 5, because you have a straight flush for high, the lowest straight flush, but a straight flush nonetheless.
Yeah.
And you also have the nut low.
Interesting. And of course, you've got 7 cards. So you can use your best 5 for the low. You can use your best 5 for the high. They don't necessarily need to be the same 5 cards, right? You can have a 1 5-card high hand and a different 5-card low hand using your 7 cards in total.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing, so then is it as typical 7-card draw where everyone gets 2 down, 1 up, and then the betting starts?
Yep, it's similar. The way that it's dealt is exactly the same. And for those who aren't familiar with 7-card stud, there are some kind of fun and interesting ways that the cards are dealt. It doesn't always start with the same player. Right. The first betting round starts. It's called the bring in, and the worst value card, the lowest card showing, actually bets first. And then for the rest of the game, the highest showing hand actually bets first on what are called the 3rd through 7th streets. So it's like 3rd street is the 3rd card is dealt. That's actually the bring in. I'm sorry, and then 4th street, 5th street, 6th street, and then 7th street.
And then
that's an interesting difference for 8 or better, because having a low card as your bring in isn't necessarily all that bad. Normally with stud, you want to punish. The bring in is really a punishment. It's cause action with the worst hand showing. And so that's why instead high, the low card brings it in. And in Raz, the high card will bring it in. But instead 8, because you're going both ways, it's not bad to have a low card.
Cool. And then on 4th Street onwards, it's the highest ranking poker hand that's visible. So if you had, so on 4th Street, everyone's got 2 up cards. And so if you had a pair, that would be higher than a single ace, for instance. And the higher ranking hand would then be the one that played first on that street.
Yep, that's correct.
Cool. All right, interesting. And yeah, John, Lucy, feel free to jump in if you've got any questions or insight here as well.
I was just going to say 7-card stud is the only time that suits actually make a difference. Because like the bring in card, the lowest card, the cards go in reverse alphabetical order. So the spades is considered the highest suit.
Right.
And then clubs are considered the lowest suit. So if you have a 2 of clubs and a 2 of spades showing, the 2 of clubs would be the bring in.
Interesting. You know, I've often wondered how they sort of differentiate between the suits there. Reverse alphabetical order, that makes a lot of sense. For some reason I always figured it was alternating like black red black red, but that just shows I got a lot to learn about this kind of stuff. This is cool. And so, yeah, John, please.
Yeah, without community cards, everybody has their own. Would you say the low pot gets chopped more often, where people have like the ace through five?
I would actually think it'd be chopped a little less often because you each have to have your own version of it. So because you're not relying on the community cards. Whereas in Omaha, if you both have an ace deuce and there's not an ace of deuce on the board, you're chopping the low pot. Whereas in this, you have to have all 5 cards in your hand. So there's more room for the hands to be different.
And just to add to that, they have to be 5 distinct cards. You can't have, similar pairs to chop it up even more.
Oh yeah, good point. And I guess so just based on the way that the game is played, you can't get like counterfeit or anything either. If you've got a qualifying low hand on 6th Street, it doesn't matter what else you get dealt. It's not going to like make your hand no longer qualify because you just wouldn't count those other cards essentially. So how important is, I mean, I always find in these 7-card stud games, it really puts an emphasis on, and Jake mentioned this earlier, sort of like the public information is very different because you can see a lot of the deck by the time you get further into the hand. How many players typically sit at a table for this? Can you play this 8-handed before you start running out of cards? Yeah.
Full ring is considered 8-handed for stud games.
Yep, that makes sense. So by the time you've got 32 of the 8 times 4, that's 32 cards exposed. Every player's got their 4 up cards. That's a significant portion of the deck. So card removal, I guess, gets very important as the streets progress because other than the down cards, of course, how many low cards are still available, how many cards in the suit that you're looking for are still available if you're trying to make the high, that kind of thing, in a way that's totally unfamiliar to some of us no limit hold'em players.
What you're saying is definitely true, but if you're ever in a game where all 8 players are making it all the way to 6th Street to have 4 up cards, that's a very good game.
That's a good point. That's a good point, John. That's a good point. And I guess I should also ask, is this this is a limit or a no limit variant game that we're talking about tonight?
Typically it's played limit.
Okay. So that's a whole nother hoop to jump through for some of us no limit hold'em players.
The way it typically works is something along the lines of, before you're dealt any cards, everyone antes. And the ante is usually about 10% of your small bet. It varies. The structures vary. They're all over the place, especially in tournaments where blinds go up. And then you'll have a bring in, and that is the punishment for the low card there. And that is almost always half of what the small bet will be. So that person can do the bring in, and then the next person, if they want to raise, it's called the complete, which is the size of the small bet. And then all other bets are in increments of that for the remainder of that betting round. And use the small bet on the 3rd and 4th Street. And then starting at 5th Street, it's the big bet, which is double whatever the small bet was, similar to like limit hold'em will have the first 2. The difference is you have 3 more streets here. So there's 1 extra street of betting compared to hold'em. So the pots tend to get bigger in stud. You typically want to decide if you are going, you need to think really hard before you put any money in on 5th Street. You can speculate a little bit on 3rd and 4th, but when it gets to 5th, you really have to have a good draw to whatever you're trying to make.
Mm-hmm. And I know some people think about limit games that like I can only lose so much, so I should just like come along and see if I make it. But that's actually not true at all, because you can only win so much when you convert your hand to a winning hand. So it really affects discipline. Is a much more important aspect of these limit games, or so I hear. All right, well, I know we're about to start sharing Jake's screen to go through a demo hand, but what are some other kind of general concepts about it that we can talk about before then. Like I love that notion of kind of having to know where you are going before you get into the big bets, because there is an extra big bet. There's there's more rounds of betting here, so I can see that being an expensive mistake.
The other thing, because you have 4 up cards going, there can be quite a bit of subterfuge. And let's say you start up with rolled up deuces. That's not a bad high hand, horrible low hand, but it looks like you're going low. So you can often confuse people, or an ace. And if you have an ace up, they don't know, is it a low hand or is it a high hand?
Yep.
And you do need to be careful that you don't want to, go get quartered, although it happens much less often in this than it does in Omaha.
Right. And when you're trying to decide whether to go for the high or low or scoop, what is it about your hand or the available cards that you can see that would help you make that decision about whether to what part of it to go for?
Well, you're going for whatever hand you get. It's not like you have to declare at the end.
Oh, okay. There's no declare.
No, there's no
all right.
declare. So cards will
Interesting.
read and it'll be whatever it will be. But as Jake mentioned earlier, you really do want to try to go for hands that have a possibility of winning both. So a lot of your straight are, because the low is 8 or better, it only gives you 8 cards. So you're usually have some type of straight possibility in there to maybe get a high. Or maybe you'll have a flush possibility coming in there as well. If you only have a high hand, you have to have a really strong high hand, because if you get beaten by that straight or that hidden flush, then you're not only, when you win, you only win half the pot, but you still lose all your bets when you lose.
Mm-hmm. And so and this is something that I need to learn a lot more about in these split pot games. Like how important is it to win part of the pot every hand that you're in? Like how bad, like how much does it affect your ability to profit if you're in hands far enough along? I don't even know what I'm asking here. I guess it's hard. As a no limit hold'em player, there's just one pot. We win that pot. That's the pot we're trying to win. That's the pot that we're worried about. If there's a high and a low and you can split one or end up quartering the pot or that kind of thing, is it where's the risk reward ratio when it comes to that sort of thing? It's like, is it how bad is it to quarter the pot versus just folding on an earlier street or something like that, I guess?
In general, you really want to try to have the possibility of getting the pot. The way I usually look at it is like, if I'm sitting on an ace deuce 3 to begin with, then I could pair my ace, that might give me a high. I still have a low draw to begin with. So I have a hand that has possibilities of getting the whole pot. If I'm sitting on pocket 9s with a 7 kicker, that's probably not a hand you want to play in stud 8 or better, because
Good
you have
point.
almost no shot of winning both sides of the pot, and your shot of winning the high half of the pot isn't all that great either. Versus if you're dealt something like pocket kings and it goes well for you, you get another pair or something, you could try to get the high half, but you're only going to get the high half. So you have to be really careful. If there's a lot of betting for the low half, then you're going to be putting a lot in. But on the other hand, you could end up winning a lot too if you do win that half. So it's not that you never go for just one side, but you usually want to have one side locked up and maybe have a backdoor for the other. Like, let's say you're sitting on a 7 high straight. That has a chance of winning both ways. Someone might end up getting a better low than you, but really good chance that you're going to end up with a high half. And you might scoop.
And I would just say, John, you touched on a really, I think, interesting strategy point too, is if you're playing and it's not a, heads up play, potentially there's 3 players in the pot going towards the later streets or even the final street, and you have the low locked up, let's just say, it's in your advantage to play a little aggressively, because potentially you scoop the high pot, but you know you're going to win the low pot, and you want to take in money. You got to know where your money's coming from, essentially, in every pot. It's valuable to know that, and you can maybe earn extra because there's a chance that you can take money from someone else who is sort of only going for one side of the pot, and maybe you scoop it up and you get both.
Yeah. So that's interesting because as the hand progresses and you lose some players, it should be obvious if some players will be disqualified from a low hand just from what the cards you can see on their board. And so if you're the only one that can go for the low, if you're the only one that can qualify for the low, shouldn't you just be like shoveling all your chips in? Because at the least you're going to win half the entire pot back. So like if I bet, but I know it's limit. So if I bet a big bet and I get called by and someone calls a big bet, if I know I'm winning the low, that's kind of a free roll for me, isn't it? Because maybe I'll get a piece of the high, maybe I won't, but I'm getting that big bet back no matter what, because they can't beat me for the low.
And that's why you can often get whipsawed too, where, I mean, there are often three-handed pots and one person might have the low locked up. The other person has the high locked up, but maybe it's not obvious that one person has the low because the cards are down. And then you'll have a third player in there who might be going one way or the other and just has to keep on calling, hoping to get there. So, it can get pretty expensive given that most rounds are, depending upon where you play, it's either capped at 4 or 5 bets per round.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, that's very interesting. I'm ready to see a hand, unless there's some other strategic insights that we'd like to lend.
Just really quick from me, it's not a strategic insight, it's a technical issue. My Zoom is just moving slowly. I'm gonna leave and come back. Okay. So that the share screen doesn't flag too much. So I'll be right back. Yeah,
and I'll just tell folks about what we're going to be doing. And so Unshuffled is this fantastic platform that Jake's the CEO of Unshuffled. He's the creator. He's been building this for a while. We've been doing these mixed game demos with Jake and Unshuffled for a few months now. And what we're going to do is just show folks how you can use the platform. It's a very fun way to play poker with your friends. It's unlike a lot of the other social poker platforms out there. It's got the camera, it's got the mic, you can have this social experience, but it's also a lot like playing your own home game. It's not just no limit hold'em, it's got all sorts of mixed games as well. And you can also teach Unshuffled, the platform, how to play your own home games that you and your friends have made up, weird, unusual games like we might have played with our families growing up and that kind of thing. And it really does kind of mimic the experience of playing at home, which is a lot of fun. And they've done a great job with that. So we're really pleased to be having them here as part of this. So John, when it comes to the cards playing, because I'm used to high-low games where you have to declare which you're going for. Is that more common, or is the cards playing more common, sort of across the realm of mixed games? I always thought of it as being a declaring thing.
In general, I think almost all casinos now just do cards read because it's a little more difficult to handle the declaring aspect. People get confused on how you declare, especially since most of the time it's a hidden declare. So it is a different strategy. But another piece of strategy is sometimes if it looks like your hand is going one way, but it's going the other, you can bet to get people out of the pot too.
Right. Yeah. And interesting. And I guess that's because the public information is different than a lot of the other games that we might be more used to playing.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's very interesting. I'm always kind of interested in the strategic differences between the structures of some of these games, because it feels like there's all these edges in a game like this where, people who are unfamiliar with the format are going to be at a big disadvantage. when it comes to spots like the whipsaw situation that you're describing
Yep.
there. What are some, just while we're waiting for Jake to come back with the program, if people are starting, and this is the mixed game that's going to be the theme in July at RecPoker in our home game series. So we always try and have the month before our home game series, we have this session with Jake going through it. So it's currently June. In July, we'll have this game as our mixed game. And so people are going to be playing it for the first time. People are going to be playing it in a way they're not very familiar with necessarily. So yeah, here, well, we'll come back to that afterwards, John. Maybe some don't do this thoughts for people playing for their first time. All right, Jake, welcome back. Let's give it a try. We were just talking about how excited we are to see what is up in Unshuffled land.
Yeah, let's play a hand of stud 8 or better, huh?
Beautiful.
All right, so Unshuffled is web-based. We actually officially have an iOS app and an Android app, so you can download on the App Store as well. You can just go to Unshuffled, look it up. It's the only thing that'll show up, which is great.
Oh, and you know what, Jake, we should mention the cup. I'm so sorry, I didn't mention the Unshuffled Cup right at the top, but you can see if you just scroll down a little bit here, Jake and Unshuffled, they run these challenges all the time, different ways that you can play for free, compete against your friends and other poker players throughout the world. And one of them that's coming up is the Unshuffled Cup, which is pretty exciting. So why don't you tell a little bit about that, Jake, and then we can get started.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I'll talk about it quickly, but the Unshuffled Cup is a series. It's a season of events that anyone can participate in. Each week we hold a between 20 and 30 hand poker event where each player is playing identical cards at the same table against the AI that we've built to test the player's ability. And every player playing in that event is going to play the exact same 20 hands against the exact same opponents playing the exact same cards. So the first hand is dealt, and I see, pocket jacks. Jim is also going to see pocket jacks. So is John, and so is John. And the player to my left might have ace queen offsuit. The player to Jim's left will also have ace queen offsuit. Same with John. Same with John. It's duplicate poker. So the only thing that varies between each player is how you decide to play the cards you're dealt. Raise, you fold, you call, check. And so we're trying to evaluate players' skill more quantitatively as opposed to with all the variance that comes with the game. And then as you play, we distribute points to players based on the season. So we had a beta season going, but we'll have the first summer season for Unshuffled. And then you can qualify just like you would qualify for the FedEx Cup in golf. And each week we're giving away $500 in prizes. And then at the end of the season, which will be 10 weeks, we'll have a championship event, which the top 20% of point receivers will qualify for. And we'll be doing an even bigger event with a purse of between $25,000 and $5,000. So it'll be pretty big. Won't be insignificant.
All right, and these are free to play and compete in, but they have
For now, they're free to play and they have real prizes.
All right, that's amazing. And I love the fact that everyone's playing the identical scenarios. So it's a real test, you against these other people, no variance, just how do you do in this exact spot. So I can't wait to see how I stack up against some other players around the world. Cool.
So let's quickly dive into stud 8 or better. So if we were going to create this game with Unshuffled, what we would do is we would start with a new board. I've already created this template, so I won't actually save it, but I'm just going to walk through it really quickly. We would arrange the board, and like we talked about before, there aren't any community cards in this game. So each player is dealt 2 cards face down to start. So we'll bring those cards into the player card area. And then it's 3rd Street, 4th Street, 5th Street, 6th Street. Those are all face up, and you can see they're all face up. And then 7th Street, which is face down. After that, we go to the deal order. We know that the first cards dealt are the first 3. So we can go ahead and select those 3. After the first betting round, it's the next card, and then so on and so forth until all the cards are dealt. And that makes sense because there should be 5 rounds. And then we would go to custom settings, we'd name our template, and we would save it. I've already created this game, so we're gonna just go ahead and go home, continue without saving. And now we're gonna create our room. So let's go to schedule or start a room. We're just gonna leave this at 1,000 for both players. Doesn't matter. We won't set a turn timer for now. We'll leave it as dealer's choice. We're gonna leave it as ante. I've seen it as the ante being 1/5 of the small bet, 10% as well is another version that I've seen. Let's just keep the ante at 1 chip just for simplicity. And then for the small and big bet, we can just say the small bet will be 10 and the large bet will be 20.
Cool.
Great. So we've got our table set up the way we want to. We'll go ahead and click play now. We've got our room link. I would copy it and share it with the people that I want to play with.
And then,
And
if the other folks that you want to play with, they don't have to necessarily even have an account, right? They can just
Nope.
click on that link. You can email it to them or post it on Discord or something, and then your friends can come and join you here at this room.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Because no one wants to have to deal with creating an account for something when you're trying to get everyone to play poker together.
Nice.
So I'm going to go ahead and quickly get some people in, and it's I can tell it's lagging a little bit because I've got the Zoom and I've got a lot of different players trying to join in on this. So
Yes.
I apologize if things are moving a little slow on my side.
It's lagging a little, but
Um,
we can keep up. Don't stress it.
Cool. I may turn the video off on the Zoom because that might help.
Oh yeah, good
Um,
thinking. Good thinking.
So I'll go ahead and do that really quick.
And take your time, Jake. I know it takes a while to get the different players set up and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Well, good.
Cool.
And we're getting
All right.
a new user popping in here.
Awesome.
So if you're just joining us, we're here with Jake Hirschfield from Unshuffled, and Jake is just putting the room together here. And let me see. Yes, I see a new person joining us here, Zoom user. Welcome. Feel free to type anything you like in the chat. And if you'd like to join the conversation, just feel free to unmute and add your thoughts at any time. Thanks for joining us.
All right, so I've got 4 players for this this round. We'll go ahead and start the game, and then we'll go ahead and just click start hand. We'll scroll down to our template here, and we will pick stead 8 or better.
And a lot of these games are ones that Unshuffled has in its brain already, and then some of those are ones that you've taught it to play. Is that right, Jake?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, so we're moving at a bit of a snail's pace here. I apologize, everyone.
So in this, we've got the 9 and the 6, they're down cards, and the queen is up. Is that what that different or placement is meant to be?
That's exactly right. And hold on one second. There we go. Sorry, I have lots of different players playing. You can see my video and the other
Oh yeah.
other games.
Yeah, for those at
Um,
home, Jake is logging in on a few different devices at home just to make this easy for us to follow along. But yeah.
That's right. So we've got our ante of 1 chip, the pot's 4. You can see each player has 2 cards face down and 1 card face up. And now we would do the bring in. As we talked about before, most poker, like a lot of traditional poker games, start with the player to the left of the dealer, but that's not how these stud games work. So when we built Unshuffled, we added the ability to start the betting round as a dealer with any player at the table. So in this scenario, we're going to start with the lowest facing card up. In this scenario, it's the 5 of spades. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is click on this little arrow right here. And then I'm going to find the player, this player right here, Unshuffled guy. That would be, oops, slow down. So that would be this player here.
Yep.
I think it's a little confusing because there's 2 JHs.
Oh, there's 2
which I
J,
just thought
yes.
about before, but I'm pretty sure that's me. So I'm
Okay.
going to go ahead and click on this one. And okay, we got it right. Awesome. So as John was saying, the first player can can bet half of the small bet if they would like to for the bring in. John, that's not a required bet, is it?
Yeah, you're muted right now, John, but can the bring in player check?
No, the bring-in player cannot check. They must do the bring-in, but they do have the option to do the full complete. So those are their two options. They can either bet the bring-in or they can do the full complete.
Cool.
Interesting.
So in this scenario, let's just do the bring in, because I think that's kind of an interesting concept for players who maybe don't play these types of games that often. So we said the small fixed limit bet was 10. So this would be a 5 chip bet. We'll go ahead and bet.
And now we can't see Jake betting, but that's because he's doing it on his other device for that other player. Now we're seeing
That's
Jake's
correct.
hand here. Yeah.
That's correct. So now it's up to me. I'm showing a queen. I'm going to call for the sake of this scenario for the game. Cards are okay. I mean, like we talked about earlier, the queen high is pretty good. With 2 spades, we're not really going for the low at all because we only have 1 low card, although we still have 4 more cards to go. But, we're going to have to draw 4 low cards, which is going to be tough. And as I'm looking at the other players on the table, nothing is super worrisome at the moment. There's no one has an ace, no one has a super low card. But if I'm, this player over here, I'm pretty excited because so far no one else has qualified for the low hand, at least with face-up cards. So we'll go ahead and call with this player.
And we know, looking at our hand, that if we get 1 more card that's a 9 or higher, we are not going to qualify for the low. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, because there would be no way for us to get 5 low cards. Okay, I'm getting it.
Correct. Awesome. So, and then for the sake of this hand, I'm going to call for this player actually, let's go ahead and let's call just so we can keep things going here. And then we will call with the last player as well. Great. So once that's done, the next card will be dealt. That's another face-up card. This is 4th Street. We got a 2. That's good. We like that. This player is drawing for the low. And now we get to do the next betting round. And again, now we start with the player with the best showing hand. So we'll go ahead and select. It just so happens that it's us because we have a queen and a 2. And if we look at all the other players, Jack 8, 9, 5, 5, 4, no pairs, no other high card. So it goes to us. So we'll go ahead and make the first bet. Oops, I picked the wrong JH. I knew that was going to happen at some point.
That's all right. Well, and this is one of the things actually I really like about Unshuffled is that you are controlling the game. The computer isn't programmed to actually run the game. You are controlling the game. So it's just like a dealer in your home game. You can it's on you to know who the right person is to play and that sort of thing.
That's right. So let's just say it was this player that was supposed to bet first.
Yeah.
He's got the only low showing, so he's going to bet 10. It comes to me. We're going to go ahead and we're going to call. This player is going to call as well, and this player with 9-5 doesn't like his chances, so he's going to go ahead and fold. Another card is dealt. It should be face up again. All right, so we're out of the low now.
Yep.
But we are sort of an outside chance at a flush. We no longer have the best face up hand because this player picked up a king, and this player is in really good shape for the low.
No kidding.
And they're almost in the money on the low because this player only has 1 low card showing, and we only have 1 low card showing.
Good point. So there's a very good chance that only that top right player is going to qualify for the low here.
That's correct.
And since we know that we are not going to qualify for the low, what we're really interested in now is, can we beat this other player for the high? Because if we can't, we're essentially drawing dead. Am I understanding that right?
Correct.
Okay. Interesting.
Correct. Cool. So let's go ahead and start another betting round. Let's see if I can do this right this time. So this time we start with BA because they have the king showing. We'll go ahead and click Barry Allen. Great, we did that right. This player is going to check. Trying to read these cards here. This player is okay. Also, I forgot to mention, we're on the third betting round, which means we've moved up to the high bet.
Right. We're in big bet territory.
So we're in big bet territory. So this player is going to go ahead and bet 20 because they're feeling really confident about this low. We're not feeling that great about our hand, but we're competing with one other player. I probably, in most cases, would fold at this point. And in fact, we can, unless, I don't know, John, am I missing something here? But we have pretty bad cards at this stage, don't we?
Yeah, I would probably fold.
Cool.
And we're also seeing a jack that we would need for our straight and a king that we would need, a spade that we would need for our flush. And we
Two
see
spades.
another spade, yeah, over on the other one there. So the odds of making our flush are just getting smaller and smaller the more spades we see in other people's hands. And at this point, we really have to be aiming for a straight or a flush, because even a one pair hand, we're not going to feel confident that the other player doesn't have a better one pair hand.
That's correct.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and fold. So I think we should, and we will. And the last player will call because they're thinking, okay, they're going to get the high potentially. Although that's not always the right move here because they're not going to qualify. Well, they might qualify for the low now because they picked up another low card.
Oh
Actually,
my
no,
God. No, I just saw the other
Yeah.
guy's hand. I was like, holy cow, that's a really good hand.
And this player is in really, really good shape. Really, really
Wow.
good shape.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we're going to go ahead and do another betting round. It starts with Barry Allen again because this really actually isn't anything yet as far as face-up cards go. So Barry Allen will go first. Barry Allen is going to check, and JH is going to bet 20 because why wouldn't he?
Mhm.
And
Barry Allen, like assuming like he's got it in his mind, he's got to be thinking that he's just going for the high here, right? Because the other player has such a sweet low run already. So
yeah,
they wouldn't like raise here ever, would they? Or is there a reason to or not to?
I mean, the only reason they'd still be in this pot likely at this point with that straight and low showing is if they just feel like donating money. So they might raise if that's the case.
That's a good point because yeah, I'm thinking about it as the low, but of course it's also very close to being the straight, which is going to destroy anything that BA can have here.
that's right. And in most cases, this player would fold, but for the sake of the demonstration, because I want to get to the end of the game,
Yeah,
we're just going to call.
cool.
The last card's dealt. It's a face down card. And you won't believe the card that this player picked up. And we would do another betting round. It again would start with Barry Allen because there's no more face-up cards. He's going to check. And out of sympathy, JH is also going to check.
Collusion.
So at this point, we show cards and cards play, cards tell, and we'll figure out who the winner is.
Okay.
So JH has picked up a 2 on the last card, has an ace
Wow.
and another 8.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild hand. And then Barry Allen picked up a pair of jacks on the last card. So actually,
Oh,
we have a split pot because JH never pulled the straight, right?
no, he
No, he has
He
it. Fourth
did.
through
The eight
fourth
made
through
Oh,
eight.
you're right. Just kidding.
But no,
I
I thought you were
misunderstood.
right though. I thought you were right too. Though I was like, oh, he didn't make the straight. But
Right.
yeah, no, he did. This is
Right.
really JH's night.
It's JH's night. That's right. So at this point, what we would do is we would end the hand and we would select the winners.
Right.
And we
And
would
we're
pick-
doing that. We're
Whoops.
doing that again manually here. We're telling the computer who the winner was and who to chip the pots, who to ship the chips to.
We are, although something weird just happened on my side. And so for some reason, let me see if I can get it back. I think with all the different things happening on my network, it's well, you would pick
That's
the winner,
okay.
we would have picked JH and we would have distributed the pot and moved
Yeah.
on to the next hand.
And then you just start the next hand just like you would at home.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, that was you. That was a pretty exciting hand we ended up getting through there. I can't believe it.
And it's super random. So I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't.
Well, that's awesome. Well, is there anything else that you want to show us on the screen there? Okay, great. We'll just bring us back. And
nothing else as far as the game goes. I think that was a perfect sort of example of the way that this game can work out, is where like one player is in the money pretty early on, and then
right.
They would never have made it that far. Like John was saying, Barry Allen was donating money there at the end.
Yes.
But it's an interesting game for sure.
Yeah, and I really like it's very different. It's very different than the kind of poker I'm used to playing. Having the different up cards, and the strength of people's hands being so displayed, or at least the threat of that strength.
Yep.
Really does change the betting dynamic. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So is this a fairly like if I walked into a mixed games don't get the recognition that they're due, but is this like a common mixed game if you go into a casino, or is this one of the games that you'll see people spreading at one of their tables?
If it's part of a mix, maybe. I mean, you won't find very many places that are just running a 7-card stud high-low game.
Right.
You do see more like Omaha 8 games or other things like that. But you will see horse games, which will include stud 8 or better as one of the
right
events, or like an 8-game mix will have 7-card stud 8 or better.
Well, I can't believe we're already 50 minutes into this amazing demo. This was great. These mixed games are fun. I had fun even just talking about it. And I can see why it's really exciting, and kind of like, fortunes change over the course of a hand too. Like it is exciting and cool.
What's so fun about the stud game is that you're playing against players and they're showing more than half of their cards.
Right. Yeah.
And they're not shared cards. Like you can see half of what everyone has to use at their disposal. And so, unless someone's got something really sneaky going on, it's like hard to be deceptive. And then in some ways it's even easier to be deceptive because you might be showing a false front, but you've got like 3 of a kind in your undercards, which doesn't happen often, but it could. And then people would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you had 3 jacks under there.
In Raz in particular, which is 7-card stud low, for that, what you're showing is almost more important than what you have.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, well, folks, I hope you go get a chance to go check out unshuffled.io. Jake, I think we said on June 28th is the kickoff night for the Unshuffled Cup. If people want to go and get involved in the first flight of that, they can play throughout the series. Even if they're not there every week, they'll still accumulate points towards the leaderboard, right? They can win the weekly prizes and stuff like that.
That's correct. And if you finish top 10% in any single event, you automatically qualify for the championship event.
Okay,
so
awesome.
If you miss a bunch of events and you don't think you're going to qualify with the points, you should still play in the events because you can still qualify.
Nice. And I hope folks come and join us on the third Wednesday in July. And if I was really smart, I would have looked up what August's mixed game is in advance. Let me vamp for a little bit here. I'm pretty sure it is Raz. Okay, there we go. So next month we'll be looking at Raz with Jake from Unshuffled, and then we'll be playing that here in the RecPoker home games. If you're ever interested in getting more involved with us, go to www.rec.poker, and you can find out more details about our vibrant and encouraging poker learning community. And like I say, go check out unshuffled.io, and you can hang out with Jake and the fun gang over there and learn about some more mixed games and No Limit Hold'em. They do it all over there. It's not just mixed games. So, oh, there you go. Speaking of fun characters, yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you later, everybody. Thanks to
Bye,
the two
everyone.
Johns for sticking around, and we'll see you again next month. Thanks again.